step forward.
Hello, welcome back to the Now Podcast. I'm your new co-host C Diesel, aka Captain Kim Pachi. Now I'm playing. To the left of me, I have the Loose V. To the right of me, I have Professor E, King of the Comics, Ethan Murphy. Guys, how y'all doing, brothers?
Good.
I'm pretty good, man. We got a nice guest lined up for today. We got a very interesting show to cover. So I'm excited for this episode. It's gonna be a good one. We've been back for a little bit.
Like, say boy really bad right now, like in the worst way. Yeah.
I mean, if I was gonna say boy, I'd take the hat off, shave, and then have like a red thing painted across my face. Like I go that way with that word, not
Jesus.
with, Yeah, we're not gonna do that today.
Yeah, we're off to a fantastic start. I love
Fire the gun. All right, guys, we have a special guest today. A friend of us, a friend of the pod. Mr. Chris Miles is going to be here with us today to talk about some stuff. Let's get our guy up here. What it is, Chris?
What's going on, y'all?
Mr. Miles.
I don't think my quality is as good as y'all's.
It's not mysterious. It's like the looming, like Batman, like the Batman of this
I'll
podcast.
take it. I'll take it. He's the GOAT. He's my favorite superhero. But
why wouldn't he be?
Thank you guys for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Of course. Preface this by you probably know this already, but residential hater in the top left, I bet wrong direction. He's gonna hate on some shit potentially. Be ready for that. If you want him to shut the fuck up, just go out. You got it.
That's how we're starting off, man.
We don't do that, but we give guests the opportunity to do that if they want to. Just be prepared.
First off, I got nothing but respect for my guy Chris, because without Chris, this show technically wouldn't exist.
No, 100%, 100%. For those who don't know, as Otis said, wouldn't exist. The reason that I know Otis at all is because of Chris Miles. Chris Miles hooked me up with him like over a year ago, as far as getting me to.
Almost 2 years ago.
Almost 2 years ago. I would say almost 2 years ago. He Chris. Yes.
Was it 2020?
It's 2020. Yeah, it was because it was before the pandemic or during the pandemic.
It was during
the pandemic.
That's when I was, just connecting you with all the different blurred platforms.
That's right. So it's like 2.5 years now.
We started the podcast in like the summer of 2021 or 2020, one or the other.
Mm-hmm. Because we first had tried to. A long story short, Chris referred me to Otis as far as having him check out my book. Chris bought my book, Slade and Ash, at a convention a while back, and then he referred to have it read by Otis and the folks at a previous incarnation of Bay, so to speak. And then Otis and I started hooking up and became good friends afterwards. And so we wouldn't. This wouldn't be here without Chris. So thanks a lot, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing about me is I love connecting people, and I think the blurred community needs that. Like, we need more people to, just network with and build with. I feel like that's what's missing right now. Like, we're missing in the blurred space, like that go-to platform. So, or even just, more content in the blurred space. So I'm always happy to make those bridges happen. And, like for me, Otis reached out to me back when, he had the other platform. And I was just making content. So I'm just, just years. I say all that to say years later, I'm just glad we're still within the space where we can, shed a light on our community as Black people, but also as Black nerds. And I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy to be a part of it, for real.
Well, Chris, could you start off by just telling people what you do and who you are, I guess?
Yeah. I guess it would make more sense that way. So I'm a content creator, social media influencer. Also a writer too. I got a chance to write for Marvel Comics with Charlemagne the God from the Breakfast Club, and that's actually what led me to GalaxyCon, where I saw the people that was helping Ethan promote his comic book and sell it and stuff. So I went there because I just wanted. It was my first writing opportunity. And I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but that was my first opportunity as a writer. So I just wanted to go there to network and learn what my next move should be, because it was one of those things where I was kind of a third party. I wasn't, I didn't talk to anyone at Marvel. Charlemagne just hit me up and wanted some creative ideas, and I gave him a whole concept and he liked it. So that's how I was able to get my first writing credit, and I would like to do more writing and producing. So that's why I went to GalaxyCon to network and stuff. But before that, I was just making memes. I made a meme page called Critics of Culture. That's why it says at the bottom, Chris Miles, aka Critics of Culture, and a lot of my content started going viral. So I've been reposted on a lot of the hip hop platforms, such as Vlad TV, Hip Hop DX. Been reposted on the Shade Room, been covered on the Breakfast Club, Complex, like all the major hip hop outlets have covered my content. My content ranges from anything nerd related or anything hip hop based. And it's all via memes. So I make memes, and like I said, a lot of them have gone viral. So that's just a little bit about myself, but I'm just an overall creative person, and I love trying to bring more awareness to the Blur community.
That's it.
Sorry
So
if I was long winded.
no, man,
You dig it. I dig
we
it.
do long winded on here.
You're cutting yourself short because I mean, yes, on the front end, you make the memes that got my attention. They've gotten the attention of so many other places, but you also have been a connector piece between so many different people within the blurred space. So I definitely got to give you flowers for that, my guy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'm like Nick Fury, trying to bring the Avengers together.
My God,
Yeah, of course. He knows what Charlie's favorite character is. So yeah, we'll play.
he's my favorite character. He's
In
up
the
there.
Marvel world, he is.
No, he ain't.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: Sam Jackson, the actor portraying him, is one of your favorites.
Yeah. But Nick Fury, he up there.
Who's above you? Him in the MCU for you?
Oh, this the cinematic universe.
No, yeah,
That's the only time we
yes,
got
we're
Sam
talking about Nick Fury.
Well,
with
you
Sam
guys
Jackson.
said that in my head. I'm thinking about like.
Well, I was just
Comics
saying
as a
it.
whole.
I was just saying in general.
Yeah.
I didn't mean just MCU. I just meant in general.
That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking it as too. Anyway, Chris, back to you. I'm curious. Like, at what point? First off, when you were creating your content, obviously, did you kind of do it as like a hobby at first, or were you seriously pursuing that thing initially when you made the page?
Honestly, it was on a whim. I don't know if y'all heard of the comedian T.K. Kirkland, but he was doing a lot of videos with Vlad TV, and I was looking at the comment section, and I was like, yo, this is funny. There was like all these comments saying, TK Kirkland did this, TK Kirkland did that, because he has all these stories of putting people on and kind of being the Forrest Gump of being at every event or every situation in history. So I wanted to make some memes around it. I was like, yo, no one's talking about this. This isn't in anyone's algorithm. So I was like, well, let me go ahead and make a meme or two. And I did just that. And ironically, Charlemagne is the reason why I made the Critics of Culture page, because I was actually trying to pitch him an idea back in 2019. But his a friend of his was telling me, he was giving me some advice. His name's Wax. It's like Charlemagne's bodyguard / best friend. He was telling me, yo, you should create another IG page. That way Charlemagne could see your ideas and just tag them. So I already had a second Instagram page, but it wasn't for memes. It was to, try to get Charlemagne to see my content. Once I made that meme of TK Kirkland, I was like, well, let me just post it on this other page and just try to tag him on that page. So I deleted all the content I had previously that I was trying to pitch to Charlemagne and just use that page as a platform to I guess get TK Kirkland's attention and show other people the memes. And it was one of those things. It was like a snowball effect. One meme after another, the page kind of just took off. And then every now and again, I would send Charlemagne the memes, because I know he likes funny stuff. So I'll send some to him. And then one day he was like, yo, make a meme about such and such. And I did just that. And I sent it back to him. He liked it. He tagged me in it. And that's how I was able to, I got like 5,000 followers in 1 week. I was like, I had like only like 300 followers. So I went to like 300 to 5,000 in 1 week back in 2019. And this is the same year that I just started. And the page just kept growing from there. So from there, I just kept being consistent. So I say all that to say, like, for anyone that's out there that's, taking the road less traveled, just be consistent. Even when you don't feel motivated, persevere through all the BS and just be consistent. And that's basically how the page grew to be what it is. I was posting on IG and posting on Facebook, and, page just kept growing and growing from there.
On the same token of like persevering, I'm assuming you've had a situation where people have like stolen your content and like removed watermarks. How do you like first off, what is your first initial like thought process? Like, is it anger immediately? Is it confusion?
In the beginning, it was I ain't gonna say anger, but I would feel some type of way because I'm like, y'all are a big. It'll be bigger platforms stealing my content. I'm
Mhm.
like, you guys are bigger than me. Why do you
Oh, yeah, that's shady.
like the? I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. The Hip Hop Lab, they stole one of my memes. I can't think of who else, but they was definitely one. No, there was that one, and then another platform, but they're smaller, so I ain't even gonna mention them. But the Hip Hop Lab, they got a a pretty good following. They stole one of my memes, and then there's situations where you someone might share your content, but they don't give you credit. So one day, Hip Hop DX shared one of my memes, and so did Royce the 5'9". Royce shared it first, so they gave Royce the credit. But this was my
Mhm.
mistake, and this is, I also want to share this with creatives. Make sure you watermark your stuff. It was one of those rare occasions where I just happened to forget to watermark my meme, and that was the one that Royce the 5'9" reposted. So
Hmm.
when he reposted that, Hip Hop DX reposted it, and they've reposted my stuff before, so I just reached out to him and told him that I was the one who made it, and I showed them proof of it, and they eventually gave me credit. So, um, yeah, definitely make sure you get credit for your content and watermark it, and don't let no one tell you otherwise. Don't let no one tell you to just take it on the chin or it comes with the territory. No, I'm a firm believer of fighting for what's yours, because I've been a victim of that. Like the Breakfast Club covered, and Charlemagne wasn't there, so I'm not necessarily blaming him. It was just Angela Yee and DJ Envy, but they covered my Bow Wow meme. I posted a meme
I seen
of,
that.
I said, why what I say? Why are the people on this list considered corny? And it was Bow Wow, Drake, Will Smith, Wayne Brady, Logic, Childish Gambino. I think it was just them. And Bow Wow commented on it, and everyone's reposting it. The Hollywood Unlocked and all these other platforms, Hot 97, and then they cover it on the Breakfast Club. And Angela Yee gave the credit to Hollywood Unlocked, and me and her spoke about it, so it's there's no beef or anything like that. But um, now she follows me, and now she knows who I am. But the only reason why she knows that is because, I made a big deal about it. I made a post saying like, "Hey, I didn't get properly credited for my content on one of the biggest platforms." Like, just like I know for a fact that when all these big platforms, are reposting other people's content and they tag you or credit you for it, or they cover your content on their websites or whatever, that brings traffic to your page. It gives
Mhm.
you a level of notoriety, so the right people know who you are. Like, there's a bunch of people who follow me now just off of the strength of Charlemagne co-signing me. So I'm able to have a DM conversation with Kenya Barris. I'm able to have conversations with Carl Jones now, because they're it's like one of those things where I'm sure you're aware of this, Ethan. But like, if you're trying to break into Hollywood, they always tell you you got to have an agent. Well, how do you get an agent? You got to have a referral. Like, a lot of times, they play that who you know game, where
Mhm.
the only way you can even talk to these people if you're trying to break into the industry is if you're already connected to someone who's in the industry.
It's like, yeah.
They kind of got to put their shoulders around you, or so a cosign is everything. But I say all that to say, like, you gotta fight for it, because I wouldn't even be able to have being able to have access to someone like a Angela Yee had I not made it public and said, yo, I did not get properly credited for this meme. This meme, they gave the credit to Hollywood Unlocked. And she said it was her producer. Her producer gave it to her,
Mhm.
as is. So she's just following her producer's lead. So it's nothing against her. But had I said nothing, you know, me and her would have never been able to actually, have a line of communication, is what I'm trying to say. And,
Mhm.
because we're told a lot of times is, you know, don't worry about it. Just let it slide. And I just think a lot of times that doesn't always work for the little guy.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Fair enough.
Still
Uh,
is go ahead.
uh, Going off of what something that you were saying a little bit earlier, can you tell us about how you were able to make a connection to Carl Jones? Because I mean,
Oh,
That's
so
someone big in our space. So
First off, tell the people who don't know who Carl Jones is.
Yeah,
Give
Mr.
like a
Carl
brief
Jones.
description of who Mr. Carl Jones is.
so Carl Jones is the producer of the Boondocks, Black Dynamite, and just various different, animated projects. He's also the showrunner of The Last OG with Tracy Morgan. So he has his hand in a lot of different things. Carl Jones, I believe he followed Charlemagne, and I guess because Charlemagne kept reposting my stuff, he eventually ended up following me. And I had already been following Carl anyway. So when I saw that he was following me, I was surprised. But then I found out that he started his own animation studio. I had an idea I wanted to get animated. So I reached out to them, and it wasn't Carl who I spoke with. It was a guy named Omar. Shout out to Omar. He's the head of their production. It went from being like a meeting to an interview, because he ended up, asking me questions, about me and, the things that I've done. And I guess based off of the success I was able to have off Critics of Culture, he felt like I could be an asset to Martian Blueberry. So now I work at Carl Jones Animation Studio, helping bring awareness to his platform and his content, and things like that. So that's why it's crazy. My story's kind of crazy. It's like one thing kind of led to another. So that's why I say it's kind of like a snowball, because the ball's still rolling. Like that whole idea of Nipsey Hussle saying the marathon continues. That's literally what this is. I'm still in the race, and I still work a 9 to 5. Like I'm not.
Right.
I haven't made it or anything like that. Like I got to be to work tomorrow.
Right.
Buy
But that's one thing.
something.
Since
we can
yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah, all of us. But since I've known you, Chris, you have been. Cause I know you now for what,
3 years.
3 years since 2020, right? 2020. Yeah. But you've been since then. You've always been hustling. You've always been doing multiple things. Most of the times I've been talking to you actually like either on your way to work or coming back from work, like a long hour, like a 12-hour shifts or whatnot. So you've always been hustling, man. That's great. I love that about you.
Yeah, I try, man. I'll share it with y'all. I had this dope idea. I ain't gonna share the whole idea, but I already made a meme about it, so I'll share it. But I made a meme. I said, what would black people talk about? No, uh, what would black people talk about in a barbershop set in the Marvel universe? Yeah, I think that's what I said. Like, yeah. So that, and when I posted that, there was so much material in the comment section, and the comment section is great. Like those that's why the blurred platforms, they need their space, man, because like the level of I guess camaraderie and community we have for each other, the love we have for each other, is the reason why I feel like a lot of my platform gets around, because that's where I will post my stuff. Like, so I just, whether it's Planet E Job or Blurred World or Blurred Approved Entertainment, it's like all the blurred platforms have shown me love. Like, even I don't know if I should, we're gonna bleep their names out, but
we know. We know.
Otis
Yeah,
is Otis is an old platform. Like they definitely helped bring more awareness to Critics of Culture. So that's why it's like it's just, I don't know, for me, for someone who just kind of stumbled his way to being a content creator or a social media influencer. I don't know, it's kind of surreal for me. So I just want to say thank you, Otis. I want to say that now. I think I've said it before, but I'm gonna say it again publicly. Thank you, Otis, for even wanting to rock with me.
Well, of course. I mean, your content is always spoken for itself. And
Yeah,
me
get
and
this
you
man
have-
his flowers, people. Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
me and Chris have always, we've always had a good, solid relationship where we can, talk back and forth. So I mean, yeah, I'm glad that I was able to, kind of connect you to that, to have that relationship grow more. So I'm glad that I could be a step in the path. But it's
Definitely
all
a
you,
step.
man. It's all you, my guy.
Definitely. You definitely contributed to to my story, and me being able to just to expand Critics of Culture. And I don't, because I'm still, and I'm still figuring things out. Like I said, I'm not rich. I gotta save some money to get me a new car. Like I was just in a car accident, so I'm still dealing with real life situations while having to be consistent online, because the moment people lose interest, you start losing followers, and don't nobody want to talk to you no more. You lose engagement. So like it's just a real job. Like I treat it like a full-time job, because I work part-time. I don't even work a full-time job. I work part-time so I can give all my attention and energy into social media.
Mm. So as content creators, obviously, you'll work really hard on a project, video, whatever it be, and in your head, you're like, man, yeah, this is fire. This is gonna do well. Do you have like memes or particular things like that to where you'll make it, and from your perspective, it seems like it's gonna be hot. You think you know it's gonna hit, and then nothing doesn't. But then
Hell
you
yeah.
have this other meme that you just made because you were tired, you didn't give any thoughts to it, and then that one is the one that blows up and goes
Yeah.
crazy.
That's how it usually goes.
Yeah, that
That's how it usually
happens.
goes.
That's happened before. I actually the one I forgot to watermark was that meme. And that's why I hate the process. Like I hate the learning process of sometimes you gotta fail before you can win. It's like I don't know. I really just wish I could win the whole time, but that was a one of those situations where I just had to learn from it. Remember to watermark my memes. You know, I hated that. I hated that so much because like anytime that happens, I feel like that was traffic or engagement that could have went back to me. Not to step back on the Breakfast Club situation, but like after Angela Yee and DJ Envy reported on that story, all the other blogs ran with their narrative. Like so that means everyone else is saying that Hollywood Unlocked is the one who made the meme, or Bow Wow was in Hollywood Unlocked's comment. No, Bow Wow was in my comment section. That's the thing. So that's why you have to make sure your narrative gets told correctly, because that story was told wrong, and I feel like it cost me a certain level of followers, engagement, and even opportunities. Like no one talks about it, but these jobs didn't exist 15 years ago. Like being a content creator or a social media influencer, you can get you can get real like come ups off of the content that you make, like whether it's through partnerships, sponsors, people want to collab with you, work with you. Like going viral in America can be life changing if you execute it properly.
No,
You're
you're
not wrong
completely
there.
right. And then also making sure you have the infrastructure to handle that influx of attention when it comes to you. I mean, that's also really important too. But
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And and those are things I'm learning because I'm a creative. I'm not business. I'm still learning that. Like I'm still getting my business acumen up, but from you know as far as like how my mind works is just as a creative first. So I'm always thinking of different creative things, but I haven't got paid off of one meme I've ever made. Like I got all this viral success and getting all these reposts on these platforms. I ain't made $1 off that. I only make money through promo. I make money when someone needs some content reposted on my page because I have a certain amount of followers, but I haven't made any money off of any creative thing that I've done as critics of culture or like Chris Miles like solo. Like with Carl Jones and stuff, like I work directly, under them, but I'm just saying like me as alone by myself,
Mhm.
I haven't made any money. Like that opportunity with Marvel, all I got was a writing credit. So, and I'm not mad at that. I understand, how it works, but I'm just saying like it's you have to have a level of I guess discipline too. You can't let money be your only source of motivation. You have to have
Mhm.
a level of passion for it as well. And that's just me. Like I'm not moved by money. You can't sway me or persuade me or anything like that by telling me a dollar sign.
Damn. Well, man, speaking of, getting a buzz on social media and things of that nature, we have a really big topic that we
let's
wanted to cover
segue.
today.
That was
the
a great
segue.
segue.
I appreciate. I appreciate that. I work hard on this.
This man said buzz.
Yeah, buzz. We'll get the yellow on today.
He did it again.
Chris, we have there's obviously been a big show that's come out fairly recently called Swarm. I'm guessing you've seen it, right? I think everybody's seen it.
Nah, I actually haven't started Swarm yet. Like I'm behind. I know about it. Like I know the premise and stuff, but I haven't caught up on it.
Okay. Well, if you want to partake in the conversation, you're more than welcome to. We're going to try to keep things as spoiler free as possible.
We are
information on it. Yeah, we might as.
I
We
mean,
can. It's up to y'all.
It's been weeks.
I'm not emotionally. Yeah, I'm not emotionally invested in that show.
Yeah.
So it's like if you was talking about Demon Slayer or something, then yeah. Because right now everyone's talking about the first episode.
Because I only know the anime for Demon Slayer, so I don't know any of it. I know Otis has read the manga all the way through, so we can't do spoilers for that.
I know that one very
well. You know too much.
So we can't do this. So we're not doing spoilers at all for Demon Slayer.
Anyway,
first episode
forget it. We'll spoil it. Fuck it. We'll do it. We'll get into it. We're talking about Swarm, show created by Donald Glover and Janine Neighbors, both the co-directors and writers on Atlanta. Team back up with Amazon and doing some great things. Obviously, with them, I think they have like a multi-project deal with Amazon. Actually, I think Glover is going to be doing a Mr. and Mrs. Smith like spinoff show pretty soon here, and Janine Neighbors is getting like her own tech independent show too. So I don't know if Swarm was like the first beginning of their deal with Amazon, or if it's something that they had to kind of do to get into their own projects. But to say less, it's a good project altogether. I'm enjoying it. Obviously started Dominique Fishback, somebody that's done very well up until this point and stuff like Project Power. It's a pretty good cast. Obviously bringing in some other pop stars. We got Billie Eilish in here and some other notable names. What do you guys think about the series all around?
I was appreciating Otis's face while you were talking. Just his face was we'll do an actual a short of just Otis's face reaction to every word you said. This then.
I was listening to him.
Doing my homework, man. Trying to do my homework from now on.
Yeah, the homework I respect. The opinion I don't necessarily agree with, but I mean we're gonna get into it. We're gonna
get into it.
Oh God! All right,
we're gonna get into it.
First and foremost, you guys know how we rock around here. Let's get overall thought process on the show as a whole, and then we can break down individual parts. So, Otis, the residential hater, go ahead, give us your first thoughts, just thinking it, please.
So I mean, Swarm. I really thoroughly enjoyed the concept of it. Like, bringing some of the things that have gone around Beyonce's life and putting that into this series, I think was a great idea. Some of the performances are really great. I thought Billie Eilish killed her episode, right? Like I didn't know she had that in her. I think she murdered that. Seeing Damson Idris and Chloe in the first episode was very, very intriguing. That was an entertaining episode.
Yeah, I bet it was intriguing.
But overall, I think that it's kind of subpar. I think that the idea for everything that he wanted to show was there, but I think the execution of it was mediocre, especially when we get into the later episodes. Like there was a fake documentary within there that literally just like was a completely different cast, essentially using the same terminology with that it's supposed to be within the same world, but it was fake. Like it was not a real thing, and it being where it was kind of disrupted the flow of the series. It took me out of the immersiveness of it, so I didn't appreciate that. I wanted more from this. Like I wanted a little bit more of like a cohesive storyline to build up to something, and I don't necessarily think that we're going to get more of that or any of that. I think it's just pretty much done where it is, so I didn't necessarily appreciate that. It was okay. Bottom line, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Professor E?
So my opinion, I didn't, because at the episode, for those who don't know, or for Mr. Miles, our guest, all the episodes open by saying this is not a work of fiction, so that it's meant to be inspired by something. And then I asked Otis and Charlie what this was meant to be derived from, and they told me how this is actually, for those who don't know, this was based on events that actually happened with Beyonce and her fans, or stalkers, or whatever it might be. And I thought that was a pretty interesting angle to approach this show from. And like Otis said, the execution can get a little rough at times. There were times, because each episode is roughly about half an hour long, And there were times when the episodes dragged bizarrely. They seemed bizarrely slow at times. And then once something finally happened or popped off, it was like very engaging. But it was weirdly, the pace was kind of, it struggled at times. It struggled to keep my attention from time to time. However, like I said before, when things got going, I was thoroughly enjoying it. It's just that they were so mismatched. I couldn't quite enjoy it all the way through. Billie Eilish's episode, or Billie Eilish's performance, if you didn't know that was Billie Eilish, you'd be like, wow, this is an amazing thespian doing their thing at the height of their craft, so to speak. Killed it. And like you mentioned before, the star of the piece, Andrea, what's her name? Dominique
Fishback.
That's her name, Dominique Fishback. Wow. Yeah, she showed up. She showed up every episode to do her thing. I mean, you believe she was disturbed in every way possible, but it was just a little inconsistent overall. And the episode that Otis mentioned, the one that was the pseudo documentary, it was interesting because I kind of liked it, but at the same time, it was bizarrely anachronistic. And what I mean is because it's like they were within the world of this show, they were pretty much saying that this character we've been watching is a real person doing these real things, yet they put pictures of another fake person doing these things. And all this stuff is based off of real events that happened. So you think they might as well have gone all the way and actually had a real news report from a real reporter in our real world showing this stuff, or kept consistent by having these characters showing pictures of her or whatnot. But they didn't do that. They did something in between, which is weird, even weirder. So overall, it was a enjoyable ride, just kind of a weird inconsistent one, I'd say.
So unlike my two colleagues here, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Obviously, me being a big horror fan, I kind of have a soft spot for the genre in general. But with the show itself, in the critiques, I agree with a lot of them, mostly being that documentary style episode. I think it was like the 8th, or it was the second to last. 6th. I with that one, I would have either moved that episode like near the beginning of the show, possibly, if you really wanted to have that in there, or would have kept it all together. I feel like that episode did kind of throw off a little bit of the pacing for me and kind of interrupted the immersiveness of the show, because you really weren't. It's kind of out of left field from the last episode. But things I loved about this show, obviously, it's very much so similar to the shots of Atlanta. And like Glover does this like long shot thing where he'll focus on a singular shot, but he won't focus in on like a single point in the shot. He leaves like a bunch of subliminal messages within the shot, or certain things that are supposed to be more, I guess, philosophical in nature, or kind of be like a metaphor to something else. But it's because the shot's so wide and he doesn't focus in on anything else, unless you're like rewatching the episode, or like I had to find like 3 different videos on YouTube of people breaking down what individual things meant and what he was trying to convey in that episode, which was cool when I found out what they were. But the fact that I had to go and like research and find people that hyper analyze it to find out what he meant in that, or what that was supposed to be, I think that was, you maybe work a little too hard for your message there when it came to that.
Slightly pretentious,
a little bit, but I like it though, to an extent. I like the way that he shoots his stuff. I like the slow. Everything I liked about Atlanta is what I liked about the show in general. When it comes to these shots, I thought the character writing was really well done. Even although I can't think of too many side characters throughout the show that I didn't like to an extent. Even the jokey characters with Paris Jackson and her having the whole run about her being black, and that whole little comedic gag was hilarious. Yeah. Shout out to Malia Obama. I can't pronounce her first name for the love of me. She helped write episode 5.
I didn't know that.
That specific episode with Paris Jackson, actually. I think that was episode 5. She did a great job for that. I thought that was a really great episode, probably one of my favorite ones. But to get into my favorite part, obviously, which both my counterparts have already spoken on, the Billie Eilish episode. I've been a pretty solid Billie fan since like my 3rd or 2nd year of college. For people that don't know, her family, she comes from like a family of creatives. Like her parents were both I think her mom was an actor, and her dad was a music artist. So, and her brother like writes and helps write and produce a lot of her music in general. So that whole family is just like crazy talented when it comes to being creative. So it surprised me to an extent on how good she was acting in that scene. But I figured she'd have some sort of acting chop. I don't know. I just feel like you grow up in a family that creative and that talented. It's tough for you not to pick something up.
Well, not to cut you, I'm sorry, but the only other thing I've seen her act in before was she hosted Saturday Night Live several months ago. I think she had done some stuff on like Disney Channel or whatnot before, but I hadn't seen that kind of stuff. So it's this role for me, I was like, wow, she actually can. Because she's very different when she was doing sketches. So
if you watch her music videos are very much so like horror themed, and so she fit the billing to me. I can't say she did like too much acting in that, but she did like crazier stuff, like having spiders crawling out of her mouth, needles everywhere, and shit like that. She did stuff to that similar degree in her own music and videos and things of that nature. But it was dope. I thought the series all around was great to me. I liked the idea of it was kind of like this weird, not an anthology series, but kind of like taking this deranged character and throwing her in different environments and seeing how she reacts. I even loved it even more near like the end, in which you're seeing her kind of being reformed by meeting somebody else and her going through all that past trauma, and then seeing that snap. Like, first off, shout out to Dominique Fishback. I got to give her a round of applause, because the character acting she did in this was nuts. That's like her acting in this was on the level of like Homelander level, where that person is portrayed a crazy person so well. I don't know if I could trust you in real life. Like, I have to look at you like out the side of my eye to make sure you're not snapping on me. And I don't know if it's the eyes or what it is, but people that portray crazy characters that well, I'm like, you got to have something loose to an extent, because that was nuts.
Well, what was fun too was that even in that documentary episode, which I thought the documentary episode was interesting. It just kind of seemed odd the way they did it. It kind of talked about how this person who has essentially different types of psychopathy and getting into that, so to speak, and actually made sense based on what we saw of this character. Yeah, she's displaying all these symptoms of someone that's dealing with these abandonment issues and other types of things like that of that nature. I feel like Dominique did a fantastic job of portraying that. I'm guessing she probably did some research as well. So it was she was a very engaging character, and seeing, like you said, how she interacts with different environments, or the final episode where she actually has what you would imagine would be kind of her happy ending with what's the actress that played her lover for a while. She played Iris in the Snyder Cut version of Justice League. What's her name? I'll look it up. But all I'm saying is that it seemed very much like she could have had her perfect ending. Her Hollywood ending could have gone off into the sunset with her lovely girlfriend, but she couldn't stop being who she was. And she had to, of course, like you said, she snapped back into being that monster. And she was said from the very beginning. We know since the very first opening episode that she was obsessed with the character who's basically Beyonce or Naja, right? Naja. And her girlfriend says, I hate Naja. I hate her to pieces. And ordinarily that would have set her off. She would have killed them. I mean, she has killed multiple people for saying that kind of stuff, but she didn't do it. So throughout the episode, she keeps on saying over again, I do not like Naja. I hate Naja. Then, of course, Dominique or Drea buys these tickets that cost her like several months of rent, these big, huge, expensive tickets, gives them to her girlfriend. And she's like, I hate these things. He snaps. He loses it on her. And then then Drea snaps back and goes back into full Homelander mode and just kills her on the spot. And like you said, the way she did it with those cold,
brutal way,
those cold shark eyes, I was like, I was disturbed watching it. How she did it, I was just very disturbed. So yeah, her performance was second to none.
The thing I love about that scene as well that I think Gambino does really well is almost some Tarantino type shit where he builds that tension of the scene, like in her going in the act of like murdering her girlfriend. At that point, there's no music, it's from like an elevated position, so you're seeing things from like almost not a bird's eye view, but it's almost like you're looking down on it, at least from my perspective on it, where if like to me it felt like I wasn't supposed to be watching this, which I guess makes kind of sense, but that's at least my perspective from it. It was really dope in the way it was done. That's one of the best things about the show is the shots to me.
Yeah,
right.
I do believe that they got some great shots for it. I think that Dominique's ability to constantly reinvent herself throughout the series was definitely high tier as well. My issue was just like more so in the cohesiveness between episodes and making it feel like a series. It did feel almost anthology-esque, where like it was just completely just separate one-off events. I feel like a little bit more cohesion between those would have elevated my score for it a little bit. But I mean, overall, it was an enjoyable thing. Like this, I think this is a project that is it's a higher level than what majority of content that is coming out right now. But it's still, I feel like Bino can put out better. So I'm curious to see more from him. But I can't just go and say like this is a great piece. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I applaud them for what they were trying to do. It was a very different portrayal. Also, I can't think of any. It doesn't happen that often that we have the portrayal of someone dealing with any kind of a mental illness that is a black female on screen. That doesn't happen that often in a compelling character, and I was glad to see that done well. And she did an amazing job. Like you said, the performance was amazing. It is much bizarrely kind of anthologic in a sense that it doesn't seem like that you're watching a character's consistent lifestyle, because it seems like she's in the first episode she's almost like a child, and she has a breakdown. Then by the next episode she's like somehow already like a honed serial killer. It's like, how would she go from point A to point B so well? So that a little bit of the gaps in time there, but again, it's still enjoyable enough. I still enjoy watching the ride. Enjoyed the ride. The style of filmmaking that you're describing, Charlie, the kind of the like a fish angle, not a fish angle, but a fly on the wall type of style.
Yeah.
You feel almost like you're just kind of just capturing, you're just seeing life unfold in front of you without knowing what you're supposed to watch necessarily in full detail. I think it can work in a certain sense, so I enjoyed that as well. The actor's name is Kiersey Clemens. That's the person who played her lover in like the final episode, showing the life she could have had if she had chosen that, but her psychopathy wouldn't allow her to have that. So.
Also, I guess adding to Otis's point about the pretentiousness of it, apparently they've shot this entire thing on 35 millimeter film camera, and according to Gambino, it was like he's like, I probably shouldn't have done that shit. I just did it to do it because they had to wipe all kinds of cobwebs and shit out the lenses. He was like, I wish I would have just like stopped and not did that shit. I guess for some more background information on it, apparently I don't know if have you guys seen the movie The King of Comedy with Robert De Niro? Apparently this took a lot of inspiration from that, according to Gambino.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah,
okay.
He said he took a lot of inspiration from that. So it was, again, I think it was done well. I'm not mad at the non-cohesiveness of this, just due to the fact that the whole show has been based around this incoherent person. Where like even her mic, even down to like the final episode. So, question for you guys. I know this is a question I've seen all over
get to it.
YouTube. Do you guys believe that Chloe Bailey's character, was it Dre? Not Drea. I can't remember her sister's name. That she killed herself, or that Drea murdered her? Because that was the whole thing I heard. I heard the question of like Drea murdered her, and she saw what she wanted to saw. Dre.
Like that's one thing that I've seen people post online repeatedly, and it annoys the fuck out of me. Her name is Dre, not Drea, not Andre, not Andrea. Her name is Dre.
Because I thought she said Drea. I thought she was called Drea.
I thought her full name was Andrea. I thought it was her full name.
Yeah, her full name is Andrea, but what she goes by from episode to episode, Dre.
Dre. Okay. Dre. Okay.
Like the last episode.
But to answer your question,
episode.
I do think that Chloe Bailey's character, or her sister's name was, did kill herself. Partly because she had a history of it. I mean, she said the scar she has on her wrist is from her trying before. So I do think she did. Also, based off of how overwhelmingly in love with her Dre is, I can't imagine her doing that. Also, when she's dead, she's literally with a guy. Like she was in bed with another guy at the time. So unless she snuck out and snuck back in.
So the theory is that, because obviously she has abandonment issues, and whenever somebody's about to leave her in that series, she kind of loses it a little bit. And the theory is that she murdered her sister and then left and kind of dissociated from the whole event. And that's when you start having the whole point of her like getting text messages from her sister, even after she's dead. Like she's like hallucinating and seeing those text messages and like her speaking to her after the grave or whatever else. And that being the motivation going forward.
Well, wasn't she texting herself? Like we actually saw her with the two phones texting herself.
She was imagining that. It wasn't an actual. Well, she did at one point. She did.
We actually saw her doing it.
But at a later point, remember in the third episode, where after she had murdered a guy in his house, she's sitting in the car. You just see a text message pop up without her doing that.
Right.
She started seeing them in her head. So that was the thing. Like with that show, like you never know. At least I think that's what Gambino tried to convey, is like a thing of like kind of muddying the lines between reality and what's in her head.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was done to like the best extent, but I could see that being even down to like the last episode in which she gets on stage with Naja, and then like she sees her sister's face and then gets in the car, when in all reality she's not gonna like protect her and take her to the car.
Yeah, nothing that
so
happens.
You never know what's really going on. And I think that was the whole point, or part of the point of, or one of the main points that he tried to convey in the show is not trusting not trusting her perspective on stuff.
That's
the the Afro surrealism. That's kind of like something that Bino goes into heavily between this show and Atlanta. Just making sure that the even the audience doesn't fully know exactly what was portrayed there, and I think he does that very well.
yeah.
Can I add something right quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, go
Of
ahead. My
course.
bad. We've been at you in the dungeon for a
No,
minute now.
no,
My bad,
you
man.
good. I was actually in a creative think tank session, and they brought up the show. So like a lot of y'all's talking points are similar to what other people were saying. But I just wanted to say that I think as far as Childish, he I think he purposely does that when y'all was talking about the episode that really didn't have too much relation to the other episodes. He I think that's his writing style because I just noticed he just does that with Atlanta, and that's the reason why I'm not caught up on Atlanta yet because I'd rather watch it all like I guess chronological order. And my homeboy referred me to the episode where Childish went to Earn rather went to a therapist, and he was like, because I'm petty, so he thought of me.
Hmm.
So he was like, "Yo, watch this episode." I'm like, "Well, I'm not caught up yet." He said, "It doesn't matter. The episode." He said the Atlanta does all the episodes aren't connected, and season one, I felt like they were more so connected, but I think I'm assuming season 3 and 4 aren't as connected as
Oh no, they're not.
the previous seasons.
Well,
But there
because
was
they're
that one episode in like season one where like Paperboy was on a round table discussion, and then
the
that's
entire
when
episode.
Niles did the whole "I'm a white guy"
Yeah.
thing. So he did have a little bit of it in season one, but I just think in general, I think he likes to do that purposely. I don't think
Yeah.
that was a mistake at all.
Oh, it's
I
not.
think
It's definitely not a
that
mistake.
intentional is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, it's definitely deliberate. There was that episode too. If you remember that one, I'm not sure if you saw this one yet, Chris. There was an episode. I think it was season 2. Yeah, I think it's season 2 where it follows a kid in school. It's an episode called like the Slap or
Oh
something.
yeah, you talking about the kid that the parents adopted, the white
Yeah,
parents adopted?
yeah. The
And
lesbians.
yeah, and then they was
it's
talking about
completely
Lake Lanier.
Yeah. He like
Yeah.
escaped
disassociated with
last
the rest
minute.
of it. Yeah. So,
Yeah, no,
so he
no,
does
that
do
was
that.
no, that was I think that was season 3.
Was that season 3? Okay, I couldn't remember which season it was.
Yeah,
I think it's the beginning of season 3. Yeah, it's the first episode
that
of
was
season
definitely.
3. Yeah.
But yeah, for whatever reason, he likes to be random.
But I'm seeing that a lot in like the horror writing now.
Yeah,
When you
him
look
and
at like
Jordan.
him, Ari, even though like the people aren't of color, like Ari Aster. I can't remember the name of the director off the top of my head, but the guy that
I know exactly what you're talking. You talking about the strange thing about the Johnsons.
yeah, that Midsommar is kind of like that. There's the guy on Netflix. He did The Haunting of Hill House. He does a lot of the horror stuff on Netflix.
Yeah, he has a couple of series.
Yeah, he's like that too, where he has films where they write him to where they try to like they'll jump in and out of the continuity to try to throw off like they try to confuse you. And sometimes it works where I'm just like, okay, was what I was seeing real? I think Gerald's Game is the biggest one I can think of just like that. If you guys haven't seen that, pretty solid.
The Stephen King one, yeah.
Nah, well, I think it was based. It may be based off that.
It's based off Stephen King book, yeah.
Yeah, it was a solid film. I enjoyed it, but it was like that as well, where she went through the events of like hallucinating her husband and hallucinating events and things being there, and then at the end of the film, you don't know what was real or not, and it was a whole thing. But I see it as like a consistent theme of horror, like over the past like maybe like 5 to 6 years or so, maybe.
Well, one thing too. Have you all seen The Shining? I know you have, Otis, obviously. Have Chris and Charlie, have you all seen The Shining?
Nah, I've actually never seen The Shining.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, Chris. The Shining basically is a movie from the 70s that Kubrick did, which is based off a book by Stephen King, which is all about the horror comes from not knowing your mind basically falling apart on you. Where one guy's mind falls apart on him so much he becomes an axe murderer, and then also watching his wife and kids' minds fall apart too. But that's the whole horror. It's based around that. So I feel like we've kind of come back to that in a sense where that is horror. Again, it's kind of the minds. The mind can create a much more dangerous environment for you than anything else in reality, so to speak. Even American Psycho in the 90s, the late 90s American Psycho, which has an Otis' favorite actor, Christian Bale. The whole idea is, did any of this movie happen? We have no idea. His mind is so far gone. None of it could be real for all we know. So yeah, it can be. You can do a really, really good horror series with that, or even a black comedy. That's what Gambino is doing basically with Atlanta and this. It's almost a dark comedy with how bizarre these situations actually are.
And I feel like it's more relatable. I feel like that a lot of people kind of go through things like that, not to that degree, obviously, but you're in moments where you're like, you'll have a memory that doesn't quite fit, or you'll dissociate about something else or something would have happened that you kind of like remembered in an entirely different way. We do that, but I think shows like that or content like that takes it, it ramps it up like times 20, obviously. But it's something that you can kind of relate to happening to you.
Yeah, I think another thing is, the people who I was in that session with, they were saying that this is actually new, and you spoke on this, Ethan. We're not used to seeing black female serial killers.
I've never seen it before. I've never seen it before.
So like that's one thing I got to give. I haven't seen it yet, but I just think people like Childish and Jordan Peele, and even Kenya gets a lot of flack too. I think all of them are trying to redefine what it is to be black in America, what a black story is, like all of these things are like pushing boundaries against what the status quo was. Like we've been told we've been limited to only be certain things, and I think we need we need a whole spectrum of black stories and not black stereotypes.
Thoroughly agree.
Thoroughly, yeah, couldn't agree more.
And as a horror fan, I always enjoy seeing like black creators get into the space. I love seeing Jordan Peele in it. Even like we've talked about it on the show before. Even if like to me something like this show is needed, it was great and it wasn't like the most spectacular show, but it was something different and an attempt was made there. And you can build off of this. You can see other black creators come into space and build off that. That's what I felt about the Candyman reboot that Nia DaCosta got. It was cool. It wasn't amazing, but it was something to build off of. And we were getting more people that look like us in this genre, and I think that's what's needed to tell some nuanced type of stories. And say what you want about Jordan Peele, but the stories he tells are nuanced and they're different. They're not stereotypical. They're nuanced, and he's trying to convey some kind of a message across.
I agree. Because I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
My bad. No, you good going?
No, I was say was even with like Jordan Peele, who produced the more recent Twilight Zone series, that was a very much an anthology series, and they're very different stories. They had different people, different races, and different cultures in it. And I was glad to see that that's happening, where even with something as ancient as the Twilight Zone, but they're trying to have different types of stories that we are allowed to be involved with. We're not just always a drug dealer or a crackhead. We're doing something else. So
yeah, even I think he was involved with Lovecraft, wasn't he?
He's a producer.
He was? Okay.
Yeah. So I think we're still learning how to be in the space. That's why I feel like Get Out and Black Panther definitely changed a lot of narratives as far as what stories can be told, and even Atlanta too. Like, there's nothing traditional or cliche about Atlanta, and like. Like, I think people, I ain't gonna say they're getting tired of it, but I think they're noticing like there's really no difference between BMF, Snowfall, and Power as far as the content. Like, yeah, the stories are a little nuanced, but it all goes back to black criminality, and it all goes back to your Godfather of Harlem as well. It all goes back to black drug dealers. Like, the stories have specifics that are different, but its overall theme is black people living in these impoverished areas, tapping into criminality to either get out of it or to make a name for themselves. And I think we've seen that story done so many times and times and times again. And I think that's why it's refreshing to get some content from Childish, Jordan Peele, and all these other black create. Even what Michael B. Jordan is trying to do with Creed, he's trying to make it a comic book. I wouldn't mind watching a boxing anime with people that look like us for once.
I'm watching it immediately.
No, I literally sold a car on Sunday to some blurs, basically because they were blurs. They were ready to walk out, but because I was a blur, we were able to connect on Megalobox and Baki. He was a fighter, and I sold him a car. He was about to leave angry. So it's like we definitely are hungry for, we're thirsty for, we love that kind of content. And like Chris was saying, like we want to see people like us doing things like that, not just being the same old, following the same mold.
And the play for Chris's point, that's the one thing I love about these new the creators coming in, is that they're taking these stereotypes and they're turning them on their heads. Like Gambino a lot when it comes to like him wearing. I think there was one episode in Atlanta I remember vividly of him wearing FUBU to class one day.
Being
like a big thing and wearing the fake clothes.
That was sad.
Yeah, that was another weird episode. Yeah,
and he turned that into something different. That's what I like.
But the thing about it is that episode took me back to middle school because I remember trying to chase the trends. I remember trying to, dress like everyone else, and then, some time passes and I realize, like by the time I catch up to it, they're already on something new, and I'm like, I'm not I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not gonna play this game where I feel the need to keep up with this fictional race that we as a people are in, because it's not real. Like, this isn't
Mhm.
something that's gonna benefit me outside of some, I guess, validation
Right.
for however long the school year is or whatever that moment is. Like, it's real silly. And then I don't know. I think like even with Kenya, like I know people are getting tired of him trying to I guess tell this story of race through his perspective. Like, you got the blackish, the mixedish, the grownish. Like, I get it, but that's why I think everyone's necessary. I think I'm not saying that we don't need the drug dealer stories. I'm just saying that can't be the only thing. I'm not saying that we don't need Tyler Perry talking about toxic relationships within the black community, but that can't be the only thing. Like, for a long time, Hollywood is like only investing in one black story.
Right.
And I feel
Right.
like we need them all. It's just we don't need more than, we don't need Shonda Rhimes making another black woman that has to fuck a white man. We don't need that. Like, if she's gonna make a story with the black woman, let her not have to be powerful through a white man. Like, it's
Mm,
just the same type of storytelling over and over again.
yeah.
So I think we need all of it. We don't need
Mm-hmm.
just one. We need, spectrums of black stories, and then it can get to the point where we become universal, and it's not necessarily based on race. It could just be a simple story. Like China doesn't look at Sam Jackson and Denzel Washington as, just black actors. They look at them as actors, and being
Right.
able to sell overseas is important to Hollywood.
Right.
I think that's the reason why in a lot of the promo for Black Panther, they kept Chadwick Boseman's face covered.
Yeah.
They kept him in the suit. They kept him in
The
the suit.
Chinese posters have him with the helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
This
Right.
old pastor in the original one. Yeah. And then
But
the US.
these are the narratives that we're trying to change by making different content.
Yeah. You don't understand. I think what was it for Boyega and Star Wars? They kept him like they minimized him on all the posters over there, or took him out
Right.
altogether.
But you know what's
Exactly.
crazy? My homeboy, he's a film head. Like, he was showing me how after Black Panther, in Solo, they started putting Childish. They started putting his pictures, a
Mm-hmm.
lot bigger than I don't know the guy who was playing Han Solo, but
Solo,
Alden
yeah.
Ehrenreich. Yeah.
yeah, they started maximizing Donald Glover's pictures on the movie posters.
Hmm.
So like I feel like Hollywood knows when there's like real momentum behind black audiences, black movies, all those things. And this is where it comes to us. Like, we have to be consistent. We have to support Jordan Peele the same way we support 50 Cent. Like, we have to support,
Hmm.
Kenya Barris the same way we support Tyler Perry. Like, we can't just only support these people when they're talking about drug dealers, basketball players, and rappers. We have to talk to them when they're talking about black people in space or
True.
aliens. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like My Dad's a Bounty Hunter is getting the proper attention that it
Oh,
deserves.
the animated movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, well, it's a series, but I don't. It's
Or series. I didn't
don't
even
get
know it
me
was a
wrong.
series. I thought it was a
People are,
movie.
yeah, it's a series on Netflix, and people are talking about it, but I don't think they're talking about it enough. Honestly, I mean, it's an animated Pixar type of movie. It should be getting those types of. I feel like it should be getting that type of love, like, just in general. Like, this isn't a movie that only black people can resonate with. There's a little white girl that should be able to watch that movie and get the same amount of enjoyment. So I don't know. We're still fighting. That's all.
Part of
Yeah.
that
No,
too,
that's
I
true.
will say, is promotion. I think with us, the one negative that black people have when it comes to this content, very rarely can we just drop the content and let that speak for itself. We always have to have some, like for example, with It Swarm, before people even knew about the show, it was the Chloe Bailey Damson scene. That's what was trending all over
Yeah.
Twitter, and that's why everybody swarmed to go see the show. Like, you always have to have some kind of promotion.
That's
Again,
true.
even like I felt bad for her, but even with Chloe's, I think she just dropped the album, only sold like 6,000 copies the first week, and she did like no
They're
promotion for
blaming
it.
Beyonce for that though.
Yeah, I don't even blame her. I blame her team. Like, you don't do any promotion.
Yeah.
I
You
think the
have
only
to.
thing I
Yeah.
saw about the album was like her putting out a post about like Chris Brown being on the song, being on the single, and that was it. I didn't hear
And that
anything
was
else about it.
received actually pretty negatively.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't do any kind of promotion about it. You don't drop any other songs, no posters. You don't have any paid promo, nothing. with us, we always have to have some kind of creative way to get it going. I don't even think it's just us necessarily. I think part of it too is other cultures as well.
Well, no, I think to your point, we have a certain level of loyalty to celebrity that
Mhm.
I mean is kind of good and bad. So it's like I was saying earlier, if you got a cosign, then people will automatically rock with you just off the strength of someone else,
Right.
you know,
which
choosing
is
you.
which
Huh?
is true, Chris. Which also it swings both ways as far as we call a spade in the black community, especially. We like to hate on each other sometimes too, which as far as like we're not as fast to help each other up as we should be. We're kind of
Yeah,
we almost feel like
unless you starting to pop, it's like once
yeah,
you
Mhm.
kind of like a rapper that wasn't big at first, and they get the Mike Jones syndrome. Back then you didn't want them, now they hot you all on them.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
So
Yep.
so a lot of us are like that. We wait
hmm
until you're popping, or we'll wait till Drake does a song with you to
Mhm.
want to actually look into you. So I feel like, and it's not even just celebrity, even with brands, like you put a Nike shoe and a Fubu shoe right next to each other, they'll be the exact same shoe, but just take the Fubu logo off and put Nike on it, and people gonna buy it. But they
hmm
was overlooking it just because it said Fubu on it.
right,
So a lot of times we be loyal to the wrong things
exactly, exactly.
to our detriment.
hmm Yeah.
Mhm.
I ain't mean to make this
Oh,
podcast.
No,
You're
that's what
okay.
we're
I love
talking
these
about.
conversations.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah, because
I'm
I think that's important. Honestly, I really do.
if we potting, we potting for real. I like these conversations. I ain't gonna hold you.
That's why I'm waiting to see Slate and Ash.
Yeah, I wish, man. That would be. I can't disclose some of the things about that, but
Yeah,
it
you
was
good. I'm just messing with you.
no. But yeah, I would love for it to be a because that was one thing. I'll say real quick. I know Charlie knows this already before, but there was one student that was looking at Slade Nash back in the day before the pandemic, and the one thing they asked about was making sure that changing Ash from being black to white, and I was like, that ain't happening. And of course, it looked well goodbye. So it's like that's the whole point of the story. Is like because the whole idea they were like, they said, is it believable for there to be a black officer, a black law
What?
enforcement? I was like,
Damn.
That's wild.
I know the world screwed up. I know that, but this is my story, and that's my boys.
You know
But
what's
anyways,
crazy? Whatchamacallit, Maxine, I think her name was Maxine from Living Single,
oh
Erica
yeah, yeah.
Alexander. She said she went through the same thing. She was trying to pitch I think it was Concrete Park. That's her comic book, and they were telling her, well, black people don't see themselves in the future, and that's why they don't watch sci-fi movies. Like I didn't think like, and this was a while ago, but like these narratives about what black people watch and what they don't watch have been going on for so long. And it's movies like Black Panther, and it's comic books like Slate and Nash that can change these narratives. And we also got to be the change we want to see, because a lot of times we don't always show up the way we should. I mean, there's just certain people that might get more attention or might get more love than others, just because maybe they don't have the story that I don't know. I feel like there's two different. There's like mainstream black narratives that everyone wants to rock with, and then there's the ones that might not seem as cool. Like I don't know. This is me kind of going on the rant, so I'm gonna slow down.
To play devil's advocate on that, I
I
will
feel
agree
like
with you.
we pick and choose which black narrative we want to see in movies and
Absolutely.
TV shows.
well, and Hollywood does that too. I'm sorry, you can
Yeah,
get
we
started,
both.
but,
That's why I
yeah,
said we kind of do that. We perpetuate the stereotypes, but we don't
yeah,
create them.
Right.
right,
I think to play devil's
yeah.
advocate, part of that, it's outrageous when you say stuff like that would be a thought. But when you think about, for a large majority of the time, we didn't even promote anything outside of the stereotypes. Like
Yeah,
we've talked to plenty of other older gentlemen, even older than the people we have on this show now, my other two
Older than
co-hosts.
me. Yeah.
And when they talk about when they were younger and they were into nerdy stuff like that, publicly, even nerds that may not have been nerds in the low will scrutinize nerds that were public about that stuff. Like that was seen as something that was lame, blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
So when these studios are seeing what black people are showing up to, they're showing up to all the Juices, to all the Boys in the Hood movies. That's what they're
Belly
showing up
over and over
to.
again.
So they're going off of money. I'm like, if they're spending money
Exactly.
on this, they don't want to see nothing else. So we're going to keep
They don't
pushing
want
this
to
to
risk
them.
it, and plus they don't want to risk it either. But that's all they've been feeding us. So now you're thinking that this is the truth when no, this isn't the truth. This is just one perspective. You haven't
Mhm.
given the other chance aside. But like you went back to you said back in the day, like yo, our DC world is probably not even just blurs, but they're putting on for the nerd community in a major way.
Mhm.
Like don't get me wrong, they're showing up for us, but like our DC world is like one of the biggest things within the blur community. Like they're showing up at the Rock Nation brunch. They got their own con. Like
Doing NBA
Yeah,
events and shit, meeting
yeah,
They
I'll
might,
like
be
yeah,
at
they're
BlurCon
that
this year.
much bigger than.
exactly like the blur demographic has came a large way from where we were to the point where we're getting made fun of for watching anime or liking comic. Like this stuff is pop culture now.
Mhm.
Like man, I could go on days about it, but I feel like times have changed, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and one of the things, the biggest things too. No, we're right going long here, but one thing I want to say real quick. I know that we all know this. One thing Otis and I have talked about several times with Charlie too is just how the black torture porn era, as far as having us be portrayed as slaves over and over again, like that was
Yeah,
something that
true.
Hollywood thought we wanted to see as much.
Mhm.
And we're trying to get them to realize no, we don't always want to just see ourselves get beat up and slashed to pieces by whips and everything. We want to see other things too. We want to be celebrated, not just beaten up and tortured in the past. So
Mhm.
the idea of us not enjoying the future movies or sci-fi, false. We want to see that kind of stuff. We enjoy fantastic about a better world too, or all kinds of different things too.
I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that's the downside to movies like The Color Purple and Roots being successful is that it makes them think that that's all we want to see, or
Mhm.
that's the only thing we'll invest our time and energy and money towards because like I I don't even think people realize Roots is just one perspective of the slave trade. Like there's so many, it's so nuanced. Like it's much more than them just coming over and catching us. Like but what happens is you'll internalize that and think that's the story and think that because in school they don't teach you that
Hmm.
there was an actual process, there was trading going on from Africa and all. They don't tell you the difference between chattel slavery and slavery in Africa where you still have rights even though you're like over here we didn't have rights when we were
Mhm.
slaves, but you still had slaves and it was two different types of slavery. So the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade is much more nuanced than just a,
Mhm.
a generational series such as Roots or Queen or whatever they try to tell us or promote to us. It's so much more than that. But going back to black trauma, we're like force fed that stuff and we feed into it. That's why when Tyler Perry was doing his thing and he was on his run, that shit set us back. Movies like that and Precious and
Oh
like
yeah,
all those
Precious.
all those things set us back.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna hold you. That's why I would look at Kenyon Barris and stuff kind of funny. Like when you look at every single one of the things he's put out as of late, from Blackish to You People, it has that same plot of like black people do this, white people do this. A black guy gets out and he gets out the hood and immediately goes to white neighborhood, spends all his money on
That's because
shoes,
that's his story.
clothes, and I'm just like,
It is his story. Actually, yeah, it
and
is
I'm
his
just
story.
like, damn, bro, because I love Blackish. I watched the hell out of Blackish, but I'm like, you get a new project,
Yeah,
try something a little different. With like,
I can understand it.
that's just my thought
I
Yeah.
on it.
can I can understand the Kenya criticism, and I think but I think what it also is there's also the black people that have like I feel like Kenya talks about the struggles of being black and successful, which sounds like an
Mm-hmm.
oxymoron to black
mm,
people. Like that's like he talks about black plight from a perspective of someone who's made it out of certain circumstances and now is the only black person within his circles. So like I remember
Hmm.
Childish was saying that he was the one who beat Kenya on getting 30 Rock. Like Kenya
Mm-hmm.
lost to Childish when it came to that opportunity. And I think Childish was the only black writer in that series.
mm.
So like
Probably.
but these
Probably.
are the what I'm trying to say is these are the struggles that black people go through in Hollywood or black
Hmm.
people that go through that are in another tax bracket because eventually Jaden Smith and all these the children of all these successful black actors and entrepreneurs and celebrities are going to want to tell them their stories too, So are they going to be looked at as less black because they didn't have the same life? They didn't have the same middle class or lower class that you did? Because a lot of people at the time, they thought that the Cosby Show wasn't going to be a
Yeah,
success
bomb. Yeah.
because they thought that a well-to-do upper-class black family in America isn't relatable. So I feel like that's what Kenya's trying to do. I feel like that's his goal, trying to change that narrative of what it means to be black in America and black and successful. But I just feel like the more he keeps putting out the same thing over and over again, I feel like that's gonna get lost in translation. But I think all these you got Rashida Jones, Tracy Ellis Ross. There's a reason why he works with them because Rashida's family, that's Quincy Jones' daughter. Tracy Ellis Ross, that's Diana Ross' daughter. I'm sure they have a lot of stories of being biracial or being black in the entertainment business that maybe we can't relate to, but maybe someone else can relate to.
That would be. I mean,
that's
that in
actually
and of like, if you did a biopic, like you say, on Rashida Jones or Tracy, I mean, it'd be an amazing like biopic, almost seeing them growing up in that kind of world.
it,
I mean,
it
it'd
would
be
because eventually Blue Ivy's gonna want to tell
like,
her
yeah,
story.
yeah.
I
Like
think
that's what I'm trying to say. Like the level of success that we have, the more and more we get to that, I guess that upper echelon, I guess it comes off as we're detached from the larger community. But I just think we have to remind people that we're not.
I think that's the struggle though, is when you have like whenever you have a person like that in which they grow up successful or they're kind of disconnected because they have R&B problem like rich nigga problems. They're like Gambino specifically, right? For the longest time, we heard he doesn't like black women, X, Y, and Z, all kinds of
And he
narratives that
wasn't
pop
even
up.
rich. He was just middle class. Like I'm middle class black.
Right.
Like
But
I'm not from
he's
the
a
hood.
celebrity at that point. He's had successful music and stuff popping off.
But I think even before that, he was one of those black kids that may have felt as though black women ostracized him. So he went towards white women. I'm not knocking it. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, whether we want to talk about it or not, like that's a prevalent within the blurred community is all these
Sure.
black men complaining about black women not, wanting to be with them when they were children or when they were teenagers or high school. I feel like that's what Childish was. I don't know if he was.
He was a blurred when it wasn't popular to be a blurred.
The
That's
difference
that's-
between
Exactly.
the two scenarios to me though lies in the fact of when you see a lot of those people within our community kind of scorned by that, in which they promote those narratives as far as black men not liking them. The difference with Gambino is like he's putting black women in his projects and like putting them in positions to succeed. Like even with this show alone, like he brought in Dominique Fishback. I think they even gave her like writing credits or like producer credits on the show as well. Like people put that narrative on him, but then he's also giving back to his culture.
Yeah.
I think that's their
Him and Jordan are doing it. Him and Jordan are both giving black women opportunities, but their reality is the opposite of that. As far as like, Childish isn't with Zazie Beats. I think that's her name, Zazie something.
his co-star,
yeah. He's in real life. He's with the white woman, and so is Jordan, and nothing's wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, I don't think they I don't think at the time, I think they felt as though maybe they couldn't resonate with black women or black women didn't like them. And now that they're like bigger now, that maybe now they're more mature than what they were. But they I think there's like a tweet or like a post of Childish saying something about black women not liking him or something like that. I forget what it was.
I feel like I heard something like that. When he was younger.
I'm just saying people. I just don't think people forget that. That's all. Like he might not be that person anymore. But
also, I think a lot of that when you look into the blurred community too, is a good, not good. I'm not going to generalize here, but I've seen in plenty of groups where they get hyper radical in the other sense of like anything white is a negative and they can't get past that.
Yeah.
You've seen all kinds of groups to where if you post like a nerd crush and this person isn't 100% black, or like Zendaya has talked publicly about black girl magic and she loves her black identity, but then you have constant of like, oh, she's not really black or she's not X, Y, and Z because she's mixed or because
she's not black enough.
Looks a certain. That's what I'm like. In that sense, we can't get past the fact of they don't fit the mold. so we look at them differently, and we give them success and we give them the props, but we don't give them the same respect as somebody that's fits the mold, which I get to an extent because you want to see yourself in that person.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, you gotta like support all of yourself. Like
Right.
it's kind of weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
and that's what I was saying. Like we are so critical of each. I mean, back in the day, I mean, y'all are all younger than me. Back in the day, Otis is probably related to this somewhat. There was very much the biggest word that was thrown around was like if you're an Oreo or whatnot, as far as if you weren't fitting the mold, the black mold, doing the specific things that black people do, if you're doing any outside that norm, fuck you, basically. I grew up in that era. I had to play football. I had to do a whole bunch of things I didn't really want to do that much because I had to try to fit in the norm. And then on my own time, I'd read comic books and I'd do other stuff like that. But I had to be very much a closet nerd growing up.
You would hide your blurredness.
I had to.
That was me.
Literally, I had to.
That's literally why I played basketball in high school. Like, I mean, I didn't necessarily enjoy the sport until I got to college and couldn't play it anymore. My whole I was literally telling this story earlier today to a bunch of kids at a workshop that I was doing. But like my next door neighbor that I lived next to for I think it was like 25 years almost. Neither of us knew each other were blurs, and we had to essentially hide that from each other until adulthood. And it's like, oh, you like Naruto? I like Naruto. Why didn't I know this before? But I mean, that's the society that we lived in, and I mean, I'm glad that it's now changed. I'm glad that the blurred perspective is now honestly just part of pop culture. But I mean, it wasn't that way for a long time.
I mean, look at your shirt, man. I love seeing you wearing that shirt that you're wearing. It's come a long way. For me, like Chris said, we still have a long way to go, but we've come a long way too.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I think that you know, we're to the point now where like you got people trying to pose as nerds and blurs, like I don't care what no one says. Like, don't get me wrong. Shout out to Fantastic Frankie. Black people need gatekeepers. We be giving our shit away too many times.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I'm not saying that we should be radical. I'm just saying that because of, and I'm not talking about just nerds. I'm just saying in general, like we as Black people, we're always giving our culture away. So I just think that we need to be protective of our culture. And going within to blerdom, I feel like we can't just be letting posers, you know, act as if they was rocking with us when it wasn't cool, and now they want to rock with us because it's the wave. Like I've never been cool with that. I'm not rocking with people who want to watch Dragon Ball Z because it's not watch Dragon Ball Z, but want to like cosplayers. Not cosplayers, IG models. There are IG models out there that will dress as characters they know nothing about, but they want to tap into the nerd demographic of fandoms. And I get it. I know why you're doing it. I just don't respect it. I'm not gonna, you know, like me, I don't watch sports. So I'm not gonna, you know, sit here and act like I'm the biggest LeBron James fan just so I can get more sports followers on my Instagram page. I'll post, don't get me wrong, I post all types of content, but I'm not gonna make that like a target audience of mine because I know I can benefit off of it. Like I would never do that. But I feel like people, you know, they just wanna ride a wave. And I just don't think this is the wave that people should ride on unless they're gonna commit to it.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent on the like financial game part of it. Like if you're doing it to make money, but I think people should be allowed to be like a super casual fan of something if you want to. Like
if it's genuine though, like you're saying casual, that's perfectly fine if you're casual, but be genuine. I think that's across the board.
Like a lot of those, like as far as comic conventions, a lot of those comic book writers and a lot of the guests that show up there, I'm sure a lot of them like are disheartened when they see characters that they created being worn by people who don't even know those characters. Because let's be honest, the cons now have been cosplay centered majority, probably the last decade. Like it's like everything else is irrelevant. Like Hilton from BlurCon had a whole situation because a white girl.
It's
like that has become the go-to theme of most cons nowadays, and it's not really something I'm into. I'm just saying like that's a prime example of, you know, I guess the the disingenuous aspect of nerd culture becoming pop culture. That's all I'm trying to say.
I think
And
that
it's not
happens.
just
That
black, and I'm
happens
not
in.
making it a
I mean,
black thing.
no,
Like that's everyone's doing that.
it's inevitable. It's inevitable. Yeah, it's
But
inevitable.
before we get on another tangent, let's score Swarm.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
score it. Yeah. For me,
My bad, Otis.
no, you're good.
You're good.
We do
Yeah.
this. This is the
No,
show.
this is
If
the
you
show.
if you watch this show to any length, tangents are the number one thing we do.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll start for the rare occasion. For me, I'd probably give Swarm like a 7.5 to an 8.
Really? I thought you go. How did you go higher?
No, I
Because
give
you
it like
seem
an 8. I give it an 8.
okay. I thought you go higher. Okay. I'll go next, and I would give it a 7 because I do. It still was a well shot. It was very well shot. The performances were very unique in themselves. It just kind of some of how it was executed was a little off. But I still give it a solid 7. Very solid 7.
Before I give my answer, I'm
Oh,
curious
God.
to know, Charlie, what do you think my score is? If you had to ballpark it.
If I had to guess, you probably get this shit like a 6.5 to 6.
I say it's 6.
Nah, it's a 7. It's a 7.
Okay.
I think there were a lot of good things about it. It just didn't have the cohesion that I was looking for in a series like this.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were to put out a second season of the show, I would definitely watch it. And I also
still
recommend
watch it,
other
yeah.
people to watch it because
I did as well.
this type of story, it is very unique, and you can't get another feel like this. So if you're watching this and you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend watching it.
Yeah, Chris, if you get a chance, at least check out one or two episodes. My favorite episode was actually the episode with Leon as her foster father, basically, where he was extremely abusive father. Yeah, so I definitely, Chris, if you get a chance, check out the show. At least
Yeah.
David
I'm
Ruffin,
get
I
caught
usually
up.
call him that. Yeah.
David Ruffin is crazy. Oh man. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and close out of here before we get into another tangent. We're kind of running over anyway. Chris, thank you so much for coming on to the show. We really
Thank you, Mr.
appreciate you so
Miles.
much.
Miles.
Thank you.
We love having black intelligent minds around here. If you would, before you take off, plug your stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, was it okay if I do that?
Yeah,
before I wrap?
plug away.
Yeah, plug it all. Actually,
Okay,
matter of fact,
Get your shit off.
All right, so right now I'm working with Carl Jones at his new animation studio called Martian Blueberry. That's at We Are Martian B as in boy, at We Are Martian B on Instagram. That's the IG handle. They just been nominated. Their project that they did with We Are Invincible. No, We Are Invisible. They just did a project with the company called We Are Invisible, called Undeniable Stories from the Negro Leagues. They're being nominated for a Webby Award, and they need the people's vote to win. So please go on the Martian Blueberry page if you can. That's at We Are Martian B. Hit the link tree and vote for Undeniable Stories from the Negro Leagues so we can win. And that's, I just want to give a shout out to Carl Jones. He's got a big project that he's going to be announcing soon. I would love to come back on here and talk about that, and hopefully even get him on here so you guys can chop it up with him. Follow me at Critics of Culture. Thanks again for having me. And like I said, make sure you guys follow Martian Blueberry on Instagram. That's Carl Jones, the producer of the Boondocks and Black Dynamite, started his own animation studio. Let's not drop the ball on this. Let's make sure we support us and vote for Undeniable Stories from the Negro Leagues in our link tree.
Yeah, I'd love to cover that on the show if you guys are down for that.
Yeah,
Give a review on it.
yeah.
Cover what?
Cover the actual. Is it a series or is it a one-off animated
You
series?
talking about the Negro Leagues?
Yeah.
Okay, so they did 3 animated short episodes, so they're not long at all. So if you guys want to check them out, I definitely recommend
They're
it.
on the site. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on. If you go on YouTube, just type in MLB Undeniable. They should pop up. As of right now, I guess they just did those 3. So we don't know, or I don't know rather, if they're gonna end up doing it again or if it's gonna be an ongoing thing. But as of right now, it's just those 3, and it's got a lot of information in them, things that we didn't know about, and that's what's so dope about our experience. Like, Hollywood hasn't even tapped into, like, I think Hollywood has barely scratched the surface on what stories they could tell just about Black people in America. Like, I'm not even talking about the whole diaspora, just Black Americans in general, like the things that we've done. Like, there's so many stories that they could go into, and I would love to see more of that. And thank you guys again for having me.
Of course.
I appreciate you having on it, and if you think that you weren't coming back on at some point, you had another thing coming, my friend.
You don't have a decision in the matter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, look. You gotta since you the Blurred Connect now, you gotta see if you can make a Blurred Carl Jones connection happen too, because I think they got their own platform too, right?
Yes, we do. So I guess I can let the cat out of the bag here. So as of now, I am a minority owner of Blurred.com. And
big money.
The head of the
swag.
Well,
Hence
I'm
the
the
swag
director of content. So yeah, we can for sure try to make a connection happen between Blurred and Martian B. In fact, I am very, very, very enthusiastic in trying to make sure that happens.
Yeah, thank you. I guess we'll talk off camera.
Church announcements before we take off, guys. Be looking forward to just some content to look forward to that we have coming. I know I myself am working on the horror video essay thing, kind of promoting modern Black people or Black creators in horror, and kind of why this is my favorite era of horror at the moment. We're gonna be working on that. Hopefully, at some point, the DBZ documentary showcasing DBZ's influence on Black nerds in general. That'll be worked on relatively soon. We got some stuff. We got parts of it done. Me and Ethan are gonna be working on it. We'll finish it up at some point.
Yeah, we're working. We're working on it. We know what we're gonna do. It's just our schedules hate us. Our schedules actively hate us. Yeah.
Bro,
I'm grown.
RDC World, RDC World is a prime example of that.
I think we have clips of them in the actual dot.
We do.
So yeah, I'm excited to get that done. But yeah, if you guys enjoy what we're doing, again, if you've seen this anywhere else, please give us a follow over at the In and Out Podcast on YouTube. You can find us on any audio platform you listen to. Listen to podcasts on Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, all that good stuff. And follow us on any social media that you find us on. It's pretty much the In and Out Podcast on just about anything and everything. We appreciate it. So guys, thank you for your support. We hope for your continued support, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Guillermo del Toro, you wish Cabinet of Curiosities was half as good as this 7 that we just talked about for Swarm.
Jesus